What's up? It's a beautiful Sunday morning for some NFL Week 5. I cannot believe we're already here. Jared, Sunday's still fun day. Lauren Jabbar here with Jared Smith. And do I see an Ohio State shirt on? That thing is ugly, man. Real ugly.
It's really ugly. Script Ohio cost me $20 out of my own pocket. So not only did I lose the bet, so for context, this is from our Iowa State Kansas game last Saturday. And the shirt came this week. And I was actually, to be fair, I was like really close to like completely forgetting about it because it's been like sitting in the corner of my apartment for the last 3 days. And then we were
where
talking
it should
for the
be
show.
Sitting.
Yeah, like literally after this, it's gonna be into the. I'm gonna put it in the dog's bed. He's gonna use it as a dog, blanket. After
Chew toy.
this. But listen, a Lannister, yeah, seriously, a Lannister always pays his debts. You won it fair and square. Kansas beat Iowa State, even though it was an ugly game, just like this shirt. But I pay my debt. Here you go. Wear the shirt on the show. Script Ohio. Screw you, Buckeyes. But nice win for them yesterday.
I know it was a good win for them, but they should be giving away those shirts for free at this point. You shouldn't have paid $20 for that thing.
No,
toss that back in the corner after the show. Thank you for paying off your debt.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I was gonna say I pay more for the dog toys, so this will become a dog toy after this show. It's going in the dog's little bin.
Yeah, perfect. That's perfect. But I appreciate a man that pays off his debt. So thank you for doing that.
Always.
Ugly shirt, but we'll get through the show together and I'll hold your hand through it all. We got a lot to get into today. Injury updates. The injury slate is multiplying basically from last week. A lot of really big injuries for some teams who are playing some really big games this week. And then we have to get into Let's Get Proppin. We have Bobby Stanley, Prop Holiday, coming on to give us some of his Week 5 props, line moves. I have the Beholder, a couple really big games going on today. We have talk teasers to me because obviously you got to get your teaser bet in that Jared has going on this week. And we can't end without our Pickswise 3-star play of the day. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's bet it, presented by Superbook Sports. Let's get into some injury updates, first of all. One of the biggest ones, the Falcons obviously going up against the Bucks. Kyle Pitts is officially out with a hamstring injury. And then you head over to Miami. I mean, Tyreek Hill, quad, questionable. Jalen Waddle, groin, questionable. How does that impact both of these teams? Because the Falcons need Kyle Pitts. And Miami without Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I mean, that's not the Dolphins team that they've put together at the beginning of the season.
Totally agree. So, and again, the line moves and the injuries are correlated. So all of a sudden, about 24 to 48 hours ago, we heard about the Kyle Pitts news. And we already knew about Cordero Patterson. Bang, Bucks line jumps from 8.5. It was already trending in the Bucks direction earlier in the week. Gets up to 10 really quick. And the reason why it just blew through 9 and 9.5, well, especially 9, that's a big, and I know 9 in your mind is not a key number, and it's not, but it is a key number for the sports books. They like to blow through 9, and then it goes to 10, 9.5 really quick, because they want to protect themselves against teasers. 9 to 3 is a very valuable, not as valuable as 8.5 to 2.5. But once you get to 9, 9.5, then all of a sudden the books just want to get right through that teaser protection number of 9. So the Kyle Pitts news, significant. Dropped the total by a little bit as well. Listen, I'm looking at the Dolphins injury report right now, and it is long. Terron Armstead, questionable. Long. You've got Howard, questionable, their best cornerback. You've got Tua out. Waddle, questionable. You mentioned Tyreek Hill, questionable. This is a problem for Miami, and this is kind of reminding me of what happened with the Ravens last year. where the talent was there, the coaching was there, they couldn't stay healthy. And if the Dolphins can't stay healthy, we're going to start to see, I don't want to say things unravel, but it'll unravel a lot quickly. It'll unravel a lot quicker the more guys get hurt. So Teddy Bridgewater already having problems, I think, just being under center and taking that job and running with it. Now he's got arguably his left tackle and 2 receivers not playing today. Keep an eye on those injuries. That Jets line will move off 3.5 very quickly if these guys are not playing today.
Yeah, the Lions taking on the New England Patriots. St. Brown is out with an ankle injury. And Zappe is starting at quarterback at this point, right, for the Pats. Your expectations for this game, and how does St. Brown and his ankle injury, I mean, who knows? He could still be playing. He's questionable at this point. But how does that impact, I guess, the line move at all for this Lions game?
I think 3 is fair. I don't think the numbers care a ton. At least from what I heard this week, we talked to Casey Degnan, who does a fantastic job running the risk room, one of the risk supervisors over at the Westgate Superbook, the fine sponsor of the show. And the quote, I'll read you the quote that he gave me on this. Zappe looked more than capable. Don't think there's a huge difference between him and Mac Jones. And I think that's fair. I don't think it's going to be a significant drop-off like we're seeing in some of these other games when you make a quarterback switch. I mean, last year when it went from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, it was like a 7-point move. Like, you're not going to see anywhere near that for Mac Jones to Bailey Zappe. It's pretty, I would say almost if it drops too much, then you've got some serious value on the Patriots. But I think at 3, I'm still interested in New England here. I mean, you're telling me the Lions, basically what this line is telling me at 3, the Lions have to go in to Foxborough and get a win, because not a lot of games land on 1 or 2. And if it lands 3, you would push. I kind of like New England here. I think the New England defense is really going to frustrate this Lions offense, especially without their best weapons. If St. Brown and Swift both sit, that to me is a New England play on, especially at 3.
We saw what the Patriots defense was able to do last week against, the Packers, and now the Packers are out there in London watching them play against Daniel Jones, partially injured. Who even knows what's going on there? That's an interesting game to talk about too. Another one I was looking at, the Browns taking on the Chargers. 2 massive injuries in that game. Keenan Allen still out with the hamstring. This is his 4th straight game this season out with that hamstring injury. Hamstrings are tough, but I mean, that sucks for Keenan Allen. That sucks for the Chargers. And then you look at the other side, the Browns. They're missing Jadeveon Clowney with an ankle injury. Well, he's questionable at this point, so he could still play. I'm leaning towards maybe he's not going to. How do you feel about this, and how does this impact the line movement?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the Chargers report now, and it's definitely less than ideal. I think with Keenan Allen, it's becoming a problem that is stretched now multiple seasons, and it's unfortunate because he's one of the most talented receivers in the league, but he has really struggled staying healthy. The good news for the Chargers is there's not much else on their injury report right now. Everyone was pretty much a full participant in practice on Friday. Hopkins, the kicker, was limited. Not really too concerned about that. On the Browns side, Clowney being the one big question mark. And I think this is an interesting game. If you remember this game last year, it was like 45-42. It was an absolute shootout. I don't think we're going to see that this year. I think especially the Chargers offense, without Slater, they're getting Lindsley back. That's big, but their left tackle's out. Allen's out. They're less of a running team this year than they were last year. We saw a little bit last week when they were facing the Texans.
Yeah.
But to me, Austin Eckler is going to be a big part of this game because the Browns have been had against the run. Myles Garrett being back is big. Denzel Ward being back is big. I think that Browns defense has played better than the numbers indicate. They had that really, really fluky last 2 minutes against the Jets, and then they played well against the Steelers. And I think there's some positives with this Browns defense. And then, of course, last week against the Falcons, they held them to 23 points. They played well in the second half. They just couldn't quite get over the hump offensively in that game. So I think this is probably one of the more fascinating games of the week from a handicapping perspective. Not a ton of line movement to speak of. It's kind of been hovering right around that pick-em range under a field goal all week. No play for me here. I don't have a feel for this game really this year.
A game that I'm struggling having to feel for at this point is the Cowboys taking on the Rams. The Rams obviously coming off of that massive loss against the 49ers, which, my friend, you won that bet between the two of us. So praise you. I know you're wearing your Ohio
Yes.
State
Too
shirt.
bad we didn't have a shirt
Praise
on the
you
line for
with
that
that
one.
49ers bet. But on the Cowboys side, I mean, Cooper Rush is looking like a true number one starting quarterback. They are missing CeeDee Lamb, though. He has a groin injury. He's questionable at this point. Who knows if he's going to play? How does that impact this game? Because at this point, the Rams have had 6 days to marinate on the absolute ass whooping that they were handed on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think when I looked at this game originally, I think a bunch of us were like, man, the Cowboys are catching a lot of points. I think they're going to play well in this game. Now that I look at it a little bit deeper, I think this is I don't want to say a get right spot for the Rams defense, but Cooper Rush has done it against some subpar competition. The Commanders last week. So I don't know. Like, his numbers have been really solid. They really have.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they didn't score in the second half against the Bengals. They literally scored a field goal in the second half of that game against the Bengals. They held on for dear life. Then they beat the Giants 23-16. They got they had a couple of drops. They had some sloppy play. Monday night game, they got through that game. And they beat the Commanders on Sunday, who just, they're just not a good football team right now. So it's hard to really, see how good Cooper Rush is based off of the Bengals defense, where they got completely shut down in the second half after the Cincinnati defense made some adjustments, and then Giants Commanders. Like, I think this is going to be the most difficult test that Cooper Rush has faced, having to navigate a defensive line that I know maybe isn't as talented as last year without Von Miller, but they're still really good. And I think this isn't going to be a road game, let's be honest. There's more Dallas fans at this stadium probably, I'm assuming, than there will be Rams fans. But I would be surprised if Cooper Rush has easy pickings this week. The first half under in this game is my bet. I gave it out in the column earlier this week. I got 21. You can still get under 20 and a half.
Yeah.
You want to play the full game under, that's fine too. But I really like the under in this game because I do think the Rams defense, which has been a little maligned, will take a step forward against Cooper Rush this week. And listen, the Cowboys defense has been playing fantastic. The Rams offensive line is in shambles. I think the secondary scares me a little bit. I can see Cooper Rush having a big game. Cooper Kupp having a big game. 2 Coopers in this game on offense. That's not
Coopers.
But the Cooper game, but I do think this is going to be a slower pace game. Dallas is going to try to establish the run. The Rams can be run on. And the Rams offense just needs to find something because Matthew Stafford looks a little bit off. So
it's because he's getting, Jared, this has happened against the Lions. It's now happening against the Rams. We saw it last season. He threw the most interceptions out of any quarterback last season, and they still ended up winning the Super Bowl. But he did that for the Lions too. When he's under pressure, he freaks out and he doesn't know what to do, and he just chucks the ball. And then in turn, they don't get anything going. There's no flow, right? And so we've seen that with the Lions. It hasn't changed with the Rams. When is this guy going to figure it out? I don't know. They're not looking like the reigning Super Bowl champs that they were last season. I don't know if they got lucky or if they were actually that talented, but we'll see moving forward. This is going to be a tough challenge for them today. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. All right, a lot of props to get into. So let's bring on in Bobby Holiday for Red Hot Chili Proppers, or let's get it poppin', or prop, lock, and drop it. Whatever you want to call it. Let's have Prop Holiday on right now.
Pick your favorite song that sounds like op, and then put prop.
I like prop, lock, and drop it the best. How do we feel about that?
Yeah, me too.
I know. Bobby Stanley, how are you?
I think that Bobby's mic is muted.
Bobby's mic is muted.
Mic
muted mic. Prop, lock, and drop.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, we hear him now.
There we go.
We hear you.
I think. No, now we lost you
again.
It's not on you, bud. It's on our end. So just bear with us for a second. I'm sure we'll get it.
I think I got it now.
There we go.
I think I got it. Good morning. Happy Sunday, everybody.
Good morning.
We can hear you.
Sorry.
Happy Sunday.
What's going on?
Good, bud.
Okay,
how you doing?
Let's get into some of your Red Hot Chili Proppers or prop, lock, and drop it. I feel like we like prop, lock, and drop it the best. I feel like we need to start doing that.
Prop, lock, and drop it.
I do like prop.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate the support on this day. Okay, let's get into some of your props for today. Terry McLaurin, over receiving yards. Their receiving core is a little banged up right now. So you think he's going to get a few more targets today?
I do. The line opened up at 56.5. I think it's at 58.5 for Terry season. And the Commanders will Jahan Dotson. Logan Thomas is a game-time decision. I think McLaurin can be in a big day against the Tennessee Titans. They give up the 4th most yards per game and 8th most receptions to opposing wide receivers. Average depth of target this season for McLaurin is 15.5. And he's seen 8+ targets of 20 yards or more. So he's also getting explosive plays that could chip away at this total. But when I look at Jahan Dotson's injury, I think that could put Terry McLaurin in for something like 8 targets for the game, especially if Logan Thomas doesn't go. For his career, when he gets 8 targets, he hits this line in 20 of 23 games. So I love this at 56.5. You can play it up to 58.5. He's going to be a guy I play around with his alt lines. Maybe 70, maybe 80 plus if you're on FanDuel. I love McLaurin to have a big game today.
Interesting. Rex Burkhead, you're betting on a guy today that had 0 carries last week. Please tell me why, Bobby.
Because I'm betting on his receiving yards. But before I go into my spiel, I was typing this up last night, and I said the disgust and contempt from Jared when he says Rex Burkhead. I can't wait. I knew this was coming. It was I was putting this in. I'm like, he's going to say something.
We know each other so well, Bobby. That was awesome. That was awesome.
Rex Burkhead, over 20.5 receiving yards. Now, he's hit this in 3 or 4 games this season. He still has a role in passing downs despite the emergence of Dameon Pierce. He's seen 5+ targets in 3 or 4 games, with the one that he didn't being the Broncos. And the Broncos defense, from what we know, is pretty good. The Jaguars allow the 3rd most receptions per game to opposing running backs and the 2nd most receiving yards per game to opposing running backs. When it comes to the actual game, Jaguars back at home -7. I think a negative game script turns into you have to abandon the rush downs. You see more Rex Burkhead in there. I really do love this play. I know it's a no-name guy, but everything kind of aligns from a stats standpoint, from a game script standpoint, and the line is low enough that he's hit it 75% of the time this season. So, yes, Rex Burkhead over 20.5 receiving yards.
I go, the disgust and contempt I know is going to come from Jared's side of the camera. And literally, as he was saying, you're like a guy that had 0 carries last week. That was the perfect.
I just like to push you, bud.
It's awesome. I was so excited for it. You have no idea.
It comes from a place of love. I don't do this. Let's just leave it at this. If I disliked anything, I wouldn't be mean. I would be nice. It's like we kid because we love. That's what we do.
We kid because we love. You love to see it.
Actually, I'm wearing a freaking Script Ohio shirt today, so anything goes. I'm allowed to say whatever I want today, wearing a Script Ohio shirt.
I'm on it, man.
Bobby Stanley, he's wearing that Ohio State shirt because he lost a bet to me. And I said after this show, he needs to throw that in the corner and just absolutely forget about it, because they should be giving away those T-shirts for free at this point. That thing is ugly. Agreed. Just saying.
Agreed.
Just saying, Jared. Just saying. It's okay. Thank you. I appreciate a guy that continues his bet, though, and actually follows through with it. A bet that I really like that you have.
I'm a dedicated individual.
Chris Godwin. I know. Chris Godwin, anytime touchdown scorer. That Bucs offense is really getting going, and I'm interested to see what they're going to be able to do today. And that pairs with my best bet of the day a little bit. So I won't give that away too early, but just a little teaser for the end of the show.
Sure. No, we got to score on Sunday. I really do love Godwin. I opened up at +155. Now it's down to +125. This Falcons defense has given up 6 touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. Good for the most in the league. Good for 2nd worst in the league. A.J. Terrell, the cornerback for the Falcons, is actually the brightest defense. He should be lining up against Mike Evans. And I'm looking at Godwin. He was #1 in red zone targets last season on the offense. Now he's finally getting healthy. The spread went from 8 to 10. It should be a little bit higher scoring for the Bucs. Give me Godwin to score a touchdown. If +125 isn't enough for you, you could do a Bucs money and Godwin touchdown for +165, a little bit more juice. But Godwin's my go-to guy for a touchdown today.
Yeah, we love the Bucs today. That's our 3-star play on the site.
Yeah.
We can't give it out anymore on this show because it's moved so much after the Pitts injury. But I think the Bucks are going to put up a big number today. They're going to drop. This is like the Tom Brady get right spot where he just takes a dump all over the Falcons. All right, Justin Herbert. I love this prop, actually. I don't bet these a ton. I had a friend, his name's Brad Howe. He does a good job for doing some other gambling content. Last year,
love Brad
he
Howe.
bet. Yeah, he's fantastic. Great guy. But last year, his every week he would give out a longest completion prop for a quarterback. I forget which quarterback he bet like 5 weeks in a row, but regardless, it's a really fun prop because you're rooting for throw the ball deep down the field. So tell me why Justin Herbert today is going to have a completion of over 37.5 yards.
I mean, despite Keenan Allen, despite the broken,
there he is. He's back. You froze for a second there, bud. You were so excited about Justin Herbert. You froze, but now you're back. Keep going.
I am very excited about Justin Herbert. No, so I mean, the broken ribs really haven't deterred him from pushing the ball down the field, despite no Keenan as well. They're still doing a good job at this. The Browns have managed to give us longest passing line to Flacco, Marcus Mariota, Bayfield. Mitch Trubisky is the only one who couldn't hit this. So you're able to get these long passes off of defense. Last year against the Browns, Herbert actually matched up with them. He had a 72-yard, a 37-yard completion, and a 29-yard completion. So anytime back, this line is really in play. I got it at 37.5, but I think it's up to 38.5. You could still feel comfortable with it. But I love this. Longest completion of the day, just over 37.5 yards.
I love it. Justin Herbert, McRib, ain't got nothing to do with the Mick completions over 37.5. You love to see it. Bobby Stanley, we so appreciate you coming on the show. Happy Sunday. Enjoy the football day today, and let's go Lions.
I will. I have a crock pot full of buffalo chicken dip waiting for me, guys. So you guys enjoy your Sunday. Wow. Great shirt, though, Jared. I love it.
You got it, bud. Love you, bud.
That was Bobby Stanley. Thanks so much.
I won't let you live that one down. I'm going to be very angry tomorrow at some point. I'm going to ask you another content-filled question tomorrow.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. All right, let's get into Eye of the Beholder. We have a lot of really big games going on today. First of all, let's take it to the Eagles taking on the Cardinals. It's a battle of the dual threat quarterbacks. Right now, that spread is set at 5. Eagles, the only undefeated team in the National Football League at this point. They're looking for their first 5-0 season since 2004. And the Cardinals had yet another slow start last weekend against the Panthers, of all teams. They're the only team, Jared, in the NFL that has not scored a single point in the first quarter this season. I know they want to start a lot faster, especially against the Eagles team that wants to prove themselves. They want to go against people. Their first 4 wins were against teams that didn't make playoffs last year. This game is a team that, had a really, really good, 7-0 start to the season last year? I mean, they were a solid Cardinals team last season. So they want to, what, 10-0?
I might be wrong. I thought it was 9-0, but I could be wrong. I was sipping the Cardinals Kool-Aid last year, so I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, we all were. But now you're sipping the Eagles Kool-Aid. And would you trust them to cover 5 points here in the spread?
I think I would. I think it's an interesting spot. I mean, everyone's betting Philly, obviously, but that doesn't really mean that much. The public wins sometimes, the sharps lose, but I haven't seen a ton of sharp money really push this line down this week. I think the public just really likes Philly, and I think the sharps are just okay with not playing this game in a high capacity because I haven't seen a ton of movement this week. It kind of opened in that 5.5 range, and it's kind of been floating there all week. And again, that's no man's land for point spreads. It won't take much to push a line. Like, for example, if the sharps really like Philly, it wouldn't have taken long for that line to go from 5.5, 6 to 6.5, 7. Like, it would have happened very fast because, again, 5.5 is kind of no man's land for NFL point spreads. And that's kind of where we're sitting right now. So I don't really think there's a lot of sharp interest in this game. I think there's a lot of people that want to bet Philly from a public perspective, and it makes sense. They've been fantastic. The Cardinals have been average at best, probably slightly below average. Their injury report looks a little bit scattered. Justin Pugh, questionable. Humphreys, questionable. Those are two key pieces on the offensive line. Rodney Hudson, their starting center, doubtful. Max Garcia, guard, out. I mean, you're talking about massive injuries on the Arizona offensive line. Now, we know it's one of my favorite things to talk about, offensive lines. The Eagles have been fantastic this year.
Love the trenches, Darren. Love the trenches.
We love the trenches. So let me give you some of the numbers that the Eagles have put up this year. They are a top 10 team in pass rush win rate, pass block win rate, run block win rate. The only win rate category they aren't doing well in is run stop. They're not getting off the ball against the run as much, and that makes sense. Jonathan Gannon's runs his pressure scheme. They like to get up the field, so they've been susceptible against the run at times this year. But game script has indicated that they haven't really needed to stop the run because they have so many leads. What did you just say? The Eagles blow through the first half. Then in the second half, teams have to throw to catch up. If that's the way the game script plays out today, and the Cardinals have all these guys out on the offensive line, I'm talking myself into an Eagles bet as I do this handicap. It does feel like Philly is a step ahead of Arizona at this stage of the season.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at the trend, and is the trend your friend here? Arizona is 0-7 against the spread in their last 7 home games. So that's there as well for your Eagles laying the points kind of a bet.
Yeah, that's a weird
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
I know. Isn't that crazy? All right, let's take it to Baltimore, where they're taking on the runner-up Super Bowl contenders in the Bengals. Battle for the North at this point. The spread is set at 3.5, and both teams right now are looking to get over 500. The Bengals handed Miami their first loss of the season last weekend. That was a tough one to watch after Tua Tagovailoa went down, and the Ravens were on the wrong side of an incredible game for the second time in 4 weeks this season. That is the second time this season they choked in the second half of the game and blew a double-digit lead to lose to the Bills. And I know it's the Bills, but at the same time, the Ravens need to lock it up and get it together at this point. The AFC North divisional matchup, I know they're tough to predict, but you look at their games last year, out of the 2 games that they've played, the Bengals won 82-38. Over their 2 games last year. And I know a lot of that had to do with the Ravens injuries, their COVID issues that they were going through. They were dealing with a lot last season, but still, I kind of am leaning the Bengals here in this spot because I still feel like we haven't necessarily seen the best from Joe Burrow. He's 2 months removed from that appendectomy. He's starting to get there, but we haven't seen four solid quarters from him in a single game. He plays like 1 or 2 good quarters. Do you think this could be a breakout game for him?
Yes. You made a very good point. It was either on Playbook or it was early in the week about Burrow's appendectomy. You've had an appendectomy?
I did not have an appendectomy. I still have.
Who did?
You?
Who did? I feel like we were having a conversation with someone who had one, and they said, yeah, like I was on my ass for like several weeks, and he had one right
I mean, it's like a full-blown surgery. And it's 2 months before the season. He missed all of preseason. Like, when you don't have those reps and you're coming out here and playing NFL competition, you can't be 100% right from the start, right?
No. And, oh, by the way, you're coming off of a Super Bowl hangover, which already is a difficult thing to do. So, Super Bowl hangover, appendix hangover. I would say this might be in game number 5. Probably the first time Joe Burrow, maybe starts to feel right. Now, I'm impressed with what Cincinnati's done the last 2 weeks. They've scored 27 points against the Jets and Dolphins each week, and they gave up less than 17 in both games. Impressive stuff. And I know Miami, the Tua injury was unfortunate, and it made that game play out very differently. But football is football. You play the team in front of you and you try to beat that team. And Cincinnati has done a good job getting back to the 500 mark. The Ravens are at the 500 mark too. Very different results. Blowout win over the Jets, blow a lead against the Dolphins. Blowout win over the Patriots, blow a lead to the Bills in a ridiculous fashion where you throw a pick in the end zone. And so then we look at the injury report and I see Rashad Bateman out today, who has been a huge, huge piece for that Ravens offense. I see Ronnie Stanley questionable still. I think he'll play, but it's his first game of the year. How, fresh and sharp will he be? Marcus Peters, their top corner, also questionable today, didn't practice Friday, which is usually the indicator if you're on the 50-50 fence here, which side you're going to play.
Yeah.
If you don't get in a practice on Friday, you downgrade them a little bit more. So I'm concerned with the Ravens. And by the way, the public kind of likes Baltimore tonight. Not huge, but if I was catching 3 in a spot where Cincinnati, to me, I think is the fresher side, a little bit, maybe playing more confidence, longer rest. They had the Thursday game. Now they get Sunday night. I would probably take the Bengals. The reason why I'm not betting this game, we already bet the Bengals to win the AFC North 3 weeks ago after they lost that first game. So I'm rooting for Cincinnati. We've got Cincinnati exposure. I am not going to bet this one, but if I were, I would likely take the 3 points and put them in my back pocket.
And the trend can be your friend here too, because the road team is 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 meetings between these two teams. And Cincinnati is 10-2 against the spread in its last 12 games overall. So that could be good heading into Baltimore, going up against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. But we'll see. I mean, the Ravens are probably going to be hungry because they've had a week now to stew over what was a horrible loss for them last week. They had it against the Bills and then they coughed it up. So they're going to come out hungry. They're going to come out strong in this game too. But this could be Joe Burrow's breakout game, and we'll see moving forward. All right, get into some line movements now. And I know we talked about the Bucs and the Falcons with obviously Cordell Patterson, and then now Kyle Pitts not playing today for the Falcons. And the Bucs offense is getting healthier. The line opened up at 8. Now it's moved to 10. It also moved down from the total being 48 to 46. The healthy Bucs become a bigger favorite, and I think 70-ish% of the bets right now are coming in on Tom in Tampa Bay. Is this because of all of the injuries that the Falcons are facing at this point?
Yeah, I'm seeing, high 60 percentages definitely on Tampa Bay this week. The money's about split. Money line bets are on Tampa. Again, the splits, take them with a grain of salt. It's tough to really, see where they're coming from and how big they come in and the volume. So the splits are important, but I think the handicap matters a little more here. And the handicap of this game is, to me, very one-sided. Not only do we get the Bucs in a buy low spot, this line opened 11.5 over the summer. And I know it's moved from 8 that I gave it out at. So full disclosure, I have my biggest bet of the week. It's actually my first 2-unit bet of the season in the NFL is on the Bucs -8. We gave it out earlier in the week. It was in the column that dropped on Thursday. Since then, the Kyle Pitts news entered the market, and this number's moved to 10. I'm not going to give this out as my best bet today because you can't bet the Bucs at 8, and I don't think I would best bet the Bucs at 10 because of where the line has moved. But I do think there is a significant handicap to be made in this game that Tampa Bay just puts the pedal down and doesn't look back. They've really struggled against teams with good defenses this year. And this is going to be one of their first games, I think, with a defense that has really, really struggled. And again, Tom Brady just owns the Falcons. I think the Bucs defense can be run on, but Cordell Patterson being out is huge. So not only is Kyle Pitts out, Cordell Patterson, I think, is the more impactful injury for the Falcons because he gives them a weapon in the backfield that's very tough to prepare for. He can run, he can catch, he can throw even. Like, he can do everything. He can do it all. You take him out of the equation and you replace him with Tyler Algier, who is basically a one-cut downhill runner. I mean, he had a great game against the Browns, but what he does compared to what Cordell Patterson does, it's just so much easier to prepare for. So I think the Bucs defense gets a break this week, not having to face Patterson or Pitts, and Tom Brady just owns this Falcons defense, and it's a buy low spot. Tampa Bay's lost 2 games in a row. They're a 500 team. So I think this is one of those games where the Bucs just say, screw you haters. We're going to go pedal down and just plow through this. Let's be honest. You go Cowboys, Saints, Packers, Chiefs, 2-2. Now you get the Falcons. This is a get-right game for Tom Brady.
Totally. And you said they lost 2 games in a row. Not only lost 2 games at home in a row. There's no way they start out 0-3 at home on the season. Tom Brady's going to come out and he's going to absolutely, I think, take advantage of the Falcons here. And that also leads into my best. We'll get into it in a little bit. But Tom Brady on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is 4-0 against the Atlanta Falcons. And all of those wins have come by double digits. So this might be 5 in a row of that. And then the other game that we saw a lot of line movement, the Cowboys taking on the Rams. The total opened at the Rams laying 4. Now they're laying 5.5. The total moved down from 44 to 42. Cooper Rush, I know everyone's really high on him. Jerry Jones is really high on him. 3-0 as a starter. This is going to be a big challenge for him. There's still a lot of matchup disadvantages for the Cowboys, and I feel like Vegas is showing us that through moving the spread here 1.5.
Totally agree. And also the total dropping, I think, is very noteworthy.
Yeah.
Some very sharp groups came in on the under earlier this week. And again, we talked about it a little bit. Cooper Rush, there's been some very positive things, but there's been some competition issues. They scored 3 points in the second half against the Bengals. They faced the Giants defense without their best player in the middle, Leonard Williams, and they scored 23 points. Like, great, awesome. You scored 10 in the fourth quarter when things kind of were getting out of hand there. That was a very tight game, an under game. I know I had the over push, thankfully, because we had 39, not 39 and a hook. But my point being, not a lot can be gleaned from that performance. Even less can be gleaned from beating the Commanders by 15 on Sunday, where they kicked 2 field goals in the opening 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden they kind of, stretched their legs a little bit in the second half. They, outscored Washington 10-0 in the fourth. But Washington's offense was so bad, they were setting up Dallas's defense, or Dallas's offense, with great field position. So I don't know how good Cooper Rush really is, even though the numbers, especially on early downs, indicate he's a top 5 quarterback. I think we'll see some regression there. I think with Matthew Stafford, it's just the offensive line, and it's been really bad. Not only with his weapons being downgraded, you go from Allen Robinson, or from Odell to Allen Robinson. That's a massive downgrade. And Cooper Kupp's been great, but he's one man. Like, he's one guy. Like, how much can he actually do on his own? Their running game has been bad. Their offensive line is battered. Their backup center's out now. They might get their starting center back today. There's just a lot of issues with this Rams offensive line and offensive skill position groups. It makes sense why this game is trending under. You got the Dallas defense, which is the first #1 team in pass rush win rate this year. I think Stafford's going to be under tremendous pressure all game. And I think Cooper Rush is going to take a step back. So first half under to me, we gave it out in the column. It's one of my better plays of the week. I got 21. I'd play the full game under 2, even though 44 is a key number. If you can't get 44, maybe I'd play the first half instead. But I see both offenses struggling here in this game.
I totally agree with you here. It's going to be interesting to see how this game plays out. I feel like it's going to be a really low-scoring game, so we'll see moving forward. Okay, let's get into some teasers, because I know one of them has to do with the game that I'm betting my best bet on. But talk teasers to me. Who do you got for your best teaser bet heading into today?
Yeah, so it was unfortunate the timing of this show. We couldn't give you the Packers as a teaser leg from 8 to 2. I bet that earlier in the week. I paired it with the Bucks. I also paired it with the Jags and the Commanders. I think those are the other 2 teaser legs that I would look at. But now the Commanders line is floating into that 1 pick'em range, which makes it less teasable. So again, the goal with teasers is to take a team that we like and to move them through 2 key numbers, 3 and 7. Sadly, the numbers usually at this stage of the week, the books know this, and they move the lines accordingly. The Bucks teaser to me was the prime teaser of the week, going from 8 to 2. Well, you can't do that anymore. It's a 10. So you go from 10 to 4, not as valuable. You can still do it, but probably a minus EV teaser. I think the Jags win today, home against the Texans. To me, this is a game where if Trevor Lawrence wants to be taken seriously as a contender, and this Jags team wants to win the AFC South, which I think is still in play, they need to beat the Texans at home. Period. End of story. Let's move on from that. 7 to 1, pretty good teaser leg. I think the other one again is the Commanders. I like the spot for the I'm about to call them the Commanders. I like the spot for the Commanders.
Yeah, you can't
today.
do that. Pause.
I don't know. Sorry about that, guys. I don't want to make any political enemies here on the show. I like the spot for the Commanders today. Mike Vrabel, to me, is much better as an underdog than he is as a favorite. The numbers indicate that. I tweeted it out earlier this week. His against the spread numbers as an underdog compared to a favorite, it's like a 20% difference. and you get Brian Robinson Jr. back for Washington. That brings an element of power running football to this Washington Commanders team that they have not had. And I just don't trust this Titans defense. I don't trust the Washington defense either, but you're telling me that the Titans are a road favorite? Can't really get behind that right now against anybody, especially a Washington team that, listen, in week 1, they beat the Jags. They've had some flashes, but overall, Carson Wentz and the offensive line's been a struggle this year. But I don't know if the Titans defense can take advantage of that. So if you have to make a teaser right now, and you're waking up today and you're like, I want to make a teaser bet, let's go Jags and Commanders. So you get the Commanders up to 7, you get the Jags down to 1. That's what I'll give you right now. But that's not the teaser.
Can I tell you one game?
I got Bucks to 2 and Commanders to 7.5.
Yeah, can I tell you one game I'm not looking forward to watching is the Titans-Commanders game. Like, that's the game on my list, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. Thank you.
I have a lot of handle on
find something.
Commanders game now. I'm invested. I'm invested.
You're invested. That's the best part about betting is teams that you just do not care about, and you're all in on it. And I absolutely love it. That's the best part of sports gambling in general. It gives you a little stake in the game. Let's Bet It is presented by Superbook Sports. Make sure to go to superbook.com right now or download the app today. This season, Gerard, we are rooting for safeties. That's because Superbook is going to give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. All you have to do, place a $100 pregame bet on any spread or any total. And if there's a safety scored in any single game on Sunday, you get a $50 bonus. Make sure to visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. All right, superbook.com. You love to see it. You want to know what else you love to see? Pickswise.com. I'm sure we have quite a few 3-star play of the days today, Jared. Tell me, what do we got?
Oh, you bet your ass we do. Yours truly again. I'm on the Bucks -8. Listen, if you really want to bet the Bucks today, we've been pounding this drum all day long. I don't mind you betting a little sprinkle on the Bucks at 10, but at 10, it's not a best bet. At 10, it's just here's a few shekels. Go have some fun. Don't spend it all in one
Here's
place.
A few shekels.
Howard Bender.
What are we living in like the early 1800s? Like shekels? What?
Have you seen my life? I'm basically a 75-year-old man trapped in a 36-year-old's body. That's pretty much who I am.
Yeah, I love it.
Howard Bender, my guy, HB, Titans commies today. Sorry, I love calling them the commies. I love it. Where there's no right. It fits. He's on the over in the Titans Commanders game, and he's also got to play on the Cardinals Eagles game, which is a little contrarian. If you're interested.
Wow,
also, Bobby Stanley checking in, prop lock and dropping it on a Devontae Smith prop. I don't think he gave this one out on the show. Bobby was holding back on us during the show. He did not give this pick out on the show, but don't worry, friends. It's on the site. Go check it out.
Make sure to go to Pickswise.com to check it out. All right, best bets of the day. I'll go with mine first because we were just talking a ton about this Falcons-Bucks game. Earlier in the week, I bet it at 48. I actually withdrew that bet. Now I'm betting it back at 46. Over 46 is my best bet of the day for this one. The Bucks looking to avoid an 0-3 home start. They're wanting to bounce back from their basically embarrassing loss to the Chiefs at this point. Their defense couldn't stop anybody. They couldn't stop Patty Ice. They couldn't stop anybody. But what I loved about the Bucks in that game is that their defense or their offense and Tom Brady had their best game of the year. 385 yards, 3 touchdowns for Tom Brady. And I know the Falcons are riding the momentum from their come-behind win over the Browns, but the Bucks are 4-0 against the Falcons with Tom Brady in charge. All of those wins are by double digits. And I know Tampa's defense couldn't stop anyone. Chris Godwin, I love seeing him back. Julio Jones, they made a difference for the team. They're getting healthier. And Atlanta is really bad at stopping teams from scoring. They're allowing the 8th most points in the NFL right now, 25.8 points per game. And the over is hit in 7 of the last 8 games between these two teams. Both teams have offensive weapons. It makes me a little nervous now, the no Kyle Pitts and obviously the no Cordell Patterson. That makes a little bit of a difference. But with what I saw from Tampa Bay's defense last week, to be honest with you, teams are going to score against them right now with how they played last week. They need to be able to lock it up, lock it in. And the total is at the over in 7 of Tampa Bay's last 8 games against Atlanta. I feel pretty good about it at this point. So Falcons, Bucks, over 46. I feel like Tom Brady's going to have a big game. This is going to be his week, his game of the season, and he always seems to do it against the Falcons. So I wouldn't bet against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at this point.
I wouldn't either. And again, to kind of add on to your handicap now that it's dropped beneath 47. And again, the reason that it dropped, I'm assuming it's because of some of the injury
Kyle
news
Pitts.
for the Atlanta
Yeah.
offensive players. Yeah, exactly. And now that it's dropped beneath 47, which is like a secondary total, the most important totals on the board, 51 and 44. And that 47 is another one, 42 as well. So now that it's dropped beneath that, you're getting a little value now at 46. And again, I could see the Bucks dropping 47 on their own. So
literally, that's what I'm like. I could see them covering this total by themselves in a game like this.
Yeah, and if you want to cover your ass a little bit, sorry to my Atlanta. If you want to cover your ass a little bit, maybe the game script is the Bucks start hot, first half over, then they slow things down in the second half, and that's where things get a little bit tight. So first half over too, I think wouldn't be the worst play. All right. I was going to give out the Bucks -8. Obviously, it's my 3-star play. It's been on the site since Wednesday, but it's moved. I'm not going to give that out now because that would be disingenuous to our audience. You can't bet the Bucks at 8 right now, and I don't view the Bucks at 10 as a quote-unquote best bet. I think it's a bet. I'd make it, but I think there's something else that popped up on the board earlier today that I want to bring your attention to, and we haven't talked about this game at all. We talked about this human a little earlier in the week, but I think it's a handicap that we should, dive into. I'm going to lay it with the Saints today, -5 at home against the Seahawks.
Wow.
And I've been the biggest Geno Smith supporter the last few weeks. Since week 1,
Yeah,
we were on him against the Broncos. And listen, it's been fantastic for Geno. This is a tough spot for Geno today. So they've faced some defenses that have been poor. The only defense the Seahawks have faced that is worth their salt is the Niners, and they scored 7 points in that game. Besides the Lions, obviously, statistically, maybe the worst defense in history, Seattle's only scored 3 points. I'm sorry, but they might be the worst defense in the history of the NFL after it's all said and done. Seattle, like choking on my own spit here, laughing. Seattle's only scored 3 points in the second half all season. You take out that game against the Lions, their other 3 games, they've scored 3 points in the second half. To me, that's tough. It's really tough for me if you're an offense on the road against a really good defense and your second halves have been just subpar. That tells me teams are making adjustments and your offense maybe is just kind of getting away with some smoke and mirrors. No Michael Thomas for the Saints today, but Alvin Kamara is back. Andrews Pete is back on that offensive line. That's huge. Why? You go from Jameis Winston to Andy Dalton. Not a huge production drop-off, but obviously mobility. Dalton's more of a statue than Winston. You want your offensive line secure. You want your good horse, Alvin Kamara, in the backfield, pounding the rock. This is a good spot, I think, for this Saints offense against an awful Seattle defense. 31st in EPA per play. 50% of dropbacks are being graded successful this season. And again, you flip the ball to the other side. Geno Smith's been nice. They've got some pieces. I think they'll move the ball. But I think overall, this is a Seattle offense that likely will see some regression based off of their numbers through the first 4 games. And oh, by the way, the final little cherry on top of this handicap, the public is eating up the Seahawks as an underdog today. Makes sense. They played well last week against the Lions. They're going to jump on them at north of a field goal this week. What do we say about public dogs, Lauren? They have fleas, and I am fading this public dog today. Laying it with the Saints.
Do we
-5.
say that about public dogs?
No, I say it.
Do we say that about
You bet your ass I say it.
I love it. They have fleas.
This shirt has fleas. Let's just leave it there.
That shirt needs to go like straight into the dumpster or the trash can. You need to light a match and set that thing on fire. But one more thing before we go. Speaking of college football, I know you went to the Notre Dame BYU game last night. How was that?
Not only did I go to the Notre Dame BYU game, I had some quality time. I am basically an honorary Jabara today. Spent some quality time with the Jabara family. Oh, Gare, such a nice man. I had such a great night.
So my dad and both my brothers went to Notre Dame. So they're all out there for the game at this point. My dad's best friend, Kevin, went to, and it was great. And my dad texted me yesterday morning and he goes, I have an extra ticket for the game today. Do you think I should invite Jared? I'm like, yeah, text Jared. Here's his number. And then I texted Jared. I'm like, hey, my dad has an extra ticket to the game if you want to go. I think he's going to text you. Jared goes, yes, I'm going. So the 4 that went to the game together last Let's see
Look
it.
at the picture. Look how great. Look how fun. It was such a fun game. Like, it's kind of blurry here on the
So
screen,
fun.
but I've
Oh,
never been to
gosh.
Allegiant before. I've obviously watched a bunch of games on TV. I drive past it all the time. I drive past the Strip. Allegiant's beautiful. And I'll be honest, that place was rocking. Only 60,000, 62,000 capacity. And only half the crowd obviously was rooting at any moment because it was a neutral game. There was half BYU, half Notre Dame. That place is a awesome atmosphere for a college football game. I'm obviously disappointed you could not join us. That would have been a really fun outing.
Sad.
But you had your own business to take care of against Georgia Tech, Duke and Georgia Tech. Big overtime game yesterday for you.
That was a good game. Yeah, Brent Key now with his second win as an interim head coach over 2 games. 2 big wins, too, against a 4-1 Duke team and then a 24th ranked Pitt team last week. So that was a fun game to cover. But I'm glad you had fun with the Jabbar
so
family.
Much fun. It was
Jared,
a good game, too. Notre Dame had a big lead.
Yeah.
Almost gave it up, and then they ended up covering. Your dad was on the first half. Your dad hit a bet. First half Irish. Good job, Mr. Jabara, winning yourself a wager there. Well done.
Now we're moving on to week 7 of college football. We got week 5
7.
NFL today, and tomorrow we got a lot to talk about still tomorrow. So we'll be back with you then. Best of luck with your bets today, guys. Enjoy the week 5 slate. Let's get it presented by Superbook Sports. Let's get it. You guys bet it. We'll see you tomorrow.